And welcome to a somewhat unintentional edition of Ben's Junk. So, yes, this week was supposed to be the first new regular archive episode of the new year, but the one I've been working on has proven to be one of those nightmare episodes. Equipment-wise, copyright-wise, you know the deal. So to hold us off for another week, I've got an item here that was intended to be at least part of a regular archive episode, but there just isn't enough to go on for a regular episode. So instead of trying to find a second item of like subject matter to build an episode out of, I'm just going to do the Ben's Junk thing with it. So with that, let's cover the second, or I guess technically third, preschool / early grade school edutainment video game console that I've covered to date. Of course, the first being the now semi-infamous VTech Socrates, and the other being the Viewmaster Interactive Vision. But anyway, this is the Sega Pico, and this was first introduced in Japan in June of 1993. It was introduced in North America in November of 1994, discontinued in North America in January of 1998, reissued in North America by a different company in August of 1999, and discontinued for good in Japan in 2005. That's quite a run for a console that I'd never heard of prior to finding this one at a local thrift store. So anyway, the best way I can describe the Pico is as a hybrid of the Leap Pad, which didn't exist yet, and strangely enough, a Sega Genesis. Now, I have very mixed feelings about the Pico, and I will get into that later, but one thing I can't deny is how high-tech this thing is by 1993 toy standards. So let's open it up. You got a little latch on the side here. This kind of fooled me at first. I thought this would be the screen, but no. And yeah, there is supposed to be something that holds the stylus in, but it's long gone. But anyway, let's just start with the stylus. And it functions like a mouse does. So you've got this pad down here, and you can just hover over the pad, and it's a cursor. And to click on something, you just tap down. And you can also tap against the back wall to escape from a game or an activity, just like that. Now, the cartridges, and I think this was the pack-in title, A Year at Pooh Corner, these are these hybrid cartridge book things, and they just pop in here like so. You start at the bottom and you just pop it into place. But I thought this was kind of ingenious. The machine knows what page you're on by how many of these little holes up here are exposed at a given time. Now, granted, that makes this very easily manipulated because you can just hold your finger over it and it'll think you're on a different page of the book. But each title has some very loose concept to it. So, you know, A Year at Pooh Corner, and you've got spring, and you got summer and all. And each page will take you to some sort of activity, some low-level game, or maybe just some sort of Microsoft Paint sort of deal. But yeah, it's very basic. It is meant for preschoolers. And down here, for the more video gamey parts, you've got a few buttons and, of course, the stylus, which won't stay in place. But yeah, there isn't much to it. And to get the cartridge back out, you just push down on this little latch here. Now, I should mention this just briefly. This thing did not have the power supply. And I was kind of freaking out about it, thinking, oh God, I've got to at least figure out what the voltage is and try and find one that's the right pin size and all that. But after doing a little digging around, I found that it's the same one as the first couple of generations of the Sega Genesis. And I do have a Genesis, but it's a later one and it's a different voltage. But it just meant a trip down to the used video game place for one of these. And I never did take the price tag off of it. But if for whatever strange reason you find one of these and you want to play with it and it's missing the power, It's not a big deal. So anyway, let's take a cut here and we'll do 2 demo segments. One will be of me interacting with the unit itself, and then we'll close things out with some direct feed footage. All right, I've got everything all hooked up and the TV is just waiting for me to do something. But you'll have to pardon the shaky cam. This is the only means I have of trying to demo the interactive parts of this. But anyway, let's take one of my 2 cartridges and we'll get started. And I failed to mention this, but it's actually very easy to miss the pins and get these things stuck. I've done it twice now, and it is no fun trying to get the cartridge back out. But anyway, let's see if I can do this without screwing anything up. And it feels about right. Clicks good. So let's go ahead and turn it on, this red switch. And it'll give us the Pico logo, and it'll go to the title screen. And you can do kind of cute little things on the title screens, I've noticed. So in the case of this one, you can, well, I'll grab the pen here. So I will be hovering to move this paw on screen, and I can just click on the cubs and make them do cute little things. And I do have the sound going, I just have it going very low. But anyway, let's jump to some sort of activity here. So there's our first screen, and it does correspond. And again, you can make just little stuff happen. But in this case, the actual activities are these little suns here. So we'll pick it, and it'll take a minute to load. And it's nagging me to use the buttons. So let's demo those. And it's like anything else, right? We'll take you faster, up will take you up, down will take you down, but on this one you cannot go back. But really it's a game of no consequence. You can touch these animals and they shoot off little stars or sparks or whatever they are. And you can't really do much of anything wrong. About the worst you can do is run into a rock. And I seem to be failing to do that. Maybe it's something to do with because I touched one of the animals or something. It's very strange, but it doesn't seem to have any real goal to it, because really all you could do is just go up and just sail through each level. Again, it's all of absolutely zero consequence, and it just loops over and over and over. There is no end to it as far as I can tell. So once it gets to the end of the level here, I'll just tap the back here and it'll send us back to the previous screen. And there is one thing on here I wanted to demo because it was so lame, and I hope that this isn't representative of all the cartridges, but there's this awful alphabet game, and I use the word game in the loosest sense. So it's saying use the buttons, but you can't lose this one either. And you'd look at it and you think, okay, I just need to pick each letter in order, so A, B, C, D, E, and just go on and on. But no, you just hit this red button and it does it for you. There's no challenge, you don't learn anything, it's just there. And that's my biggest complaint about this. And again, I do wish I had some more cartridges. I understand there's a Sonic the Hedgehog one. Actually, I know there is. I looked it up. It was like $70 on eBay. But if this is representative of this, I can't say I'm too surprised it never, at least in the States, never caught on. Because, again, there's no consequence to it, and you don't really learn much of anything. It feels like unfulfilled promise to me. You've got this great little system and all the stuff that you should be able to do, even within the realm of the time, and you're stuck with stuff like this. And the more I think about it, one of two things would have happened had you handed this to me as a 4-year-old. Granted, I was too old for this, but if I were a 4-year-old and been given this, one of two things would have happened. I would have either not been able to figure it out because this thing is not intuitive. It was just pure trial and error. And I did find the manual, but it doesn't tell you much of anything. But I would have gotten either frustrated and given up, or I would have figured it out and been so completely underwhelmed by what you were supposed to do that I would have just closed it up and that would have been the end of that. So it feels like, again, the ultimate case of lost potential. Again, I wish I had other cartridges to test. But as it stands, yeah, it's just a little novelty more than anything else. But otherwise, let's do some direct feed footage of this so you can see and hear it unfiltered. And otherwise, that's it for today. And I will talk to you again soon.